All right, class. Today I'm going over Chapter 12, Public Relations. So, what is public relations? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with the topic area, public relations refers to strategic communications between different groups of people. And specifically, the Public Relations Society of America calls public relations a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that whenever you are writing a public service announcement, or if you're writing a press release that is meant to go out to different groups of people, you want them to be informed and you want them to react to what you've given them or to have some kind of action for it. And the way your book puts it is that public relations is about solving problems and leveraging opportunities. So, not only solving problems like when a company does something bad and they need to deal with their portion of it, but also by recognizing when there are opportunities for growth and growth, both in the sense of maybe what's going on in general in a company, but also the kind of growth that you get from communicating with different audiences. So, when we talk about public relations, that specifically refers to influencing, engaging, and building relationships. Now, how do you do that? Well, you do that through anticipating, analyzing, and interpreting public opinion. You can also do it through any kind of internal communication. So sometimes you'll need to talk to people within a company or an organization and try to get their opinions about something, or maybe explain an event or something else that's going on. And you also can use public relations to drive customer engagement and plan to improve public opinion or change public opinion in some way, or deal with a crisis. So, crisis management, crisis counseling, that kind of thing. So, whenever we're talking about public relations, as I've very briefly mentioned, you do have different types of audiences. It isn't the same as that like one-to-many model that you have in traditional news writing, where okay, I'm speaking to these people in this particular area all the time, and that's it. Instead, now you have a big group of potential communication people. So you could be talking to people within your own company or within your own organization. You could be speaking to stakeholders in a company. So people who have some kind of stake in it as a business. For example, stockholders would be one group where they want to know what's going to be my return on investment, what are my dividends for this, like what kind of payout am I getting as someone who owns stock in this company. Um, or you could be talking to people who use your product or service through social media. So there are a lot of different types of communication going on here. And of course, that means that we're going back to our favorite audience segmentation. And that means, again, looking at demographics, geographics, psychographics, and behavioral information. And that will help you to understand each of your target markets and target audiences so that you're able to better inform them and explain what they need to know and maintain that positive connection with your organization, whoever it is that you're representing. Now, another aspect of public relations that tends to go by the wayside whenever you hear about it in pop culture, especially, is transparency and taking responsibility. And you don't think about it as often. Often it's the opposite is what people associate with a PR person. They usually call them spin doctors, that they're trying to spin everything to be positive for their company, but that isn't necessarily the case for a professional public relations person. What they really need to do is take responsibility if something has happened and acknowledge any concerns that are associated with whatever it is that's happened. And also, if you are issuing press releases or other proclamations, like if you have to give a speech or something, make sure that you're providing actual facts for people and not just making generalizations or speaking in hyperbole where you say, well, thousands of people believe that we're right. Actually use some real facts if you need to for those kinds of claims. And if it's a situation where, let's say you're in a press conference and you get a Q&A where you don't know the answer to that particular question, then admit that you don't know the answer and tell them, hey, look, I don't know it right now, but I know who's in charge of that or to whom I should be speaking, and I will go talk to them and get that answer for you, and then actually go do it. Don't just say you're going to do it. And another thing to remember when you're dealing with public speaking and working as a public figure in public relations, you want to maintain your authenticity. And you can do that in a few different ways, of course. First of all, don't shift the blame whenever something happens, or if you don't know about something, take responsibility for it. And also give yourself a second, think before you act. And while you should take time to think before responding or before you do something, you still want to have clear and decisive action where appropriate. So remember, you need to consider your audience and write in a transparent, authentic, and efficient way. So going back to those killer bees where we're talking about being right and being tight and clear, active, smooth, quick, all those things. Whenever you're writing, make sure that you are maintaining that authenticity through efficient and transparent writing and language. So also avoiding jargon and that kind of stuff too, whenever you are speaking to your audience. So, what are the different types of positions you might have if you are in public relations? Well, a lot of public relations positions include some version of a public information coordinator. And this person is the main person who is speaking either to the target audience. So that could be, again, those stockholders, maybe some internal memos that need to go out, or dealing with the traditional news media. So for example, whenever the mayor president gives a speech, after she is finished with her speech, then she usually has someone who is a public information coordinator who handles the questions. And that person is the main contact for the traditional news media and will often also host news conferences whenever they're needed, while the mayor president does whatever she needs to do during that time. So, this is the person who is the primary communicator. Sometimes they will have assistants or something if they need that additional support. But in general, when we're talking about this person is the support for the CEO or the CFO or whoever, like the mayor or the governor or somebody. Now, in law enforcement and emergency personnel, they have someone who is called a public information officer. And this is the person that you see on the news. And this person, it's their job to provide information to the people in their area who need to receive it. Usually that means including traditional news media. And nowadays, you might also need to make social media posts or include some other kind of emergency information distribution through online media. And it's their job to gather, verify, coordinate, and disseminate information to the public. So when there's a house fire, they're the people who are being interviewed about it. Same thing when there's some story involving the police or the sheriff's office, any of those groups, even FEMA, they have a public information officer. It's their job to get the right message to the right people at the right time. Now, another job you might see with public relations is one that's more specific to media relations. It's usually labeled something like media relations or integrated marketing. And these are usually more of the social media coordinator, the multimedia specialist, brand journalist, content creator, those kinds of jobs. And that is one of those kind of crossover positions that goes between a an advertising job and a public relations position. So this person still deals with the public. They are still providing information to the public, but a lot of times it's going to be a little more like kind of in the advertising space where they're writing content for a social media platform to talk about new products or services or to address occasionally to address a large complaint maybe or something like that, or they're going to answer emails, or they will be part of the team writing, or they might be the only person on the team actually writing those branded content, promotional advertorials that we talked about for web writing. So this person is working more online with in kind of an advertising-ish role where they're creating content to inform the public about what's going on with the company. So when we're talking about all of these roles, you notice that overall we are looking at positions where there is deliberate, mutually beneficial communication, and there are organized actions and expected reactions to that content and that communication. And generally speaking, there are usually plans in place once you get into one of those kinds of positions where they say, okay, we know how the traditional news media usually react when we give them this kind of information. This is what they say, or we know what to do regarding like social media content if you have a lot of people reacting to a post or to they're mentioning something online, then it's your job to stop, think about it, and react to the situation and provide any information that's necessary. So now that we've talked about some of the positions and the overall aspects of public relations, let's look at different types of PR writing. So, when we're talking about PR writing, as you saw, it works across media. There are tons of different types of writing that happen from or news releases to social media posts. Sometimes you're working with an advertising team to develop billboards and flyers. There are just so many different things that happen. And on top of all of that, you probably need to be a good public speaker because you will need to host news conferences or go on talk shows and do interviews. Now, of course, there are a lot of different medium-based needs depending on what type of message you're disseminating and to whom you're sending it. So sometimes, whenever we're talking about spreading a message, for example, whenever you look at a traditional press release, we are looking at AP news writing style. And of course, when we talk about broadcasting, then you need to have that shorter format, focused more on audio and video. Or if we're talking about social media posts, be prepared to reply to comments. So specifically, when we talk about PR writing, of course, the first one, which also can be abbreviated PR, is the press release or the news release. The second type is a fact sheet. Third is the media alert. Fourth is a story pitch. And finally, we have the social media post. So the first one, the news or press release, this informs the media. So we're talking about traditional news media, so radio, TV, and newspapers. You're telling them about a topic. And a lot of times, these groups, especially now that groups like radio and TV also have to have a written presence online, they are looking for a more traditional paragraph format, a traditional news writing style. So you're sending them information, often basically a pre-written article uh, about whatever your topic is. And you're using that to create awareness and to help spread the message across traditional media. And whenever you look at that style, of course, you'll see that they're using Associated Press style. And there are a few different reasons to provide a news release. The first would be some kind of announcement or even a spot announcement, which would be a shorter version. But announcements, of course, as the name suggests, you are making a proclamation about something. Either you have some speaker who is going to talk at length about like an upcoming news conference or something, or maybe you need to notify the media about a new product or a new service that you have, or maybe a vote that's coming up. If you're working in the government, there might be some kind of vote or some other funding opportunity that's coming up. That's another one they see they message about a lot, is like different grants or other research things that are going on. And with spot announcements, those again are going to be a little shorter, but those are more specific to breaking news, like when there's, unfortunately a shooting, or if there's something else going on where it was unexpected and the whatever government organization is expected to make a statement about it. Now, moving on to reaction releases are another type of news release, and these are going to be more detailed than the spot announcement, but they're a reaction to a newsworthy event. And this could be something positive or it could be something negative. Whatever it is, it's a reaction explaining what happened, what's going on. Um, for example, there was one recently, actually like a couple days ago, where Mattel found out that there was a pornographic site that was being linked to their new Wicked doll Barbies that were coming out for the Wicked movie. So if you look online, you can see they issued a reaction release regarding the mistake on some of the boxes where people were scanning a QR code and they were sent to a porn site. And you can see that, of course, they said, like, oh, this, we didn't mean for that to happen, of course. This is a children's toy, et cetera, that kind of stuff. And basically explaining how they were making amends. Now, here's another spot announcement example, and this one, as you can see, it has the Lafayette Consolidated Government logo on it. We have the contact information at the top also, so this is going to be for whoever issued the release, or the primary contact person. In this case, it is someone who is called the Senior Communications Specialist for LCG. And they include their phone number on here as well, since you want to have people actually contact you whenever they have questions. And it says for immediate release, and it has the issue date on it. And then there is a title and a little paragraph explaining what happened. This one was about a 300 block of West University Avenue closure. So there was a closure that happened in April, it looks like. And so they had to send a spot announcement, a quick release explaining what was going on, and then if needed, then they might follow up with a more detailed explanation. Now, some other things you might see regarding news releases, there are some where there are quote unquote bad news communication. And this is where you're explaining something to the public. So even though we do hear a lot of rumors and things through Snapchat or through TikTok or Facebook or wherever, you want to have that official information from a source, especially if you're working in traditional news media. You want to get to the bottom of what's going on and then relay that information to your audience. So you're explaining whatever the issue is. If you are the public information officer involved in a case, for example, like whenever there's a shooting, they usually issue a release where they explain what happened and then they include what happens next as well. So what are they doing to resolve the issue? And then we also have localizations for news releases, and these localizations are just like they are for the traditional news writing, news reporting stuff, where we're addressing a broader issue that affects one particular area. So this might be seen a bit, this is seen a little bit more with large issues like with the opioid crisis. That was one where we had a lot of localization news or press releases. And also, whenever you have a national or international company and there's an issue for regarding your company, but it's in only a specific area, like if Halliburton were to close a plant that they have in Louisiana, then they would only issue while they might make kind of a general statement as well, that's known nationally, they're going to have more specific ones for the people in Louisiana to explain what's going on. So, localization is going to be more specific to a particular area. Now, here's an example news release, and this comes from the FDA. So the Food and Drug Administration, they they issue these news releases pretty regularly where they'll have just a laundry list of things that are going on. And like in this one part of it says the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that they authorize the marketing of the Medline autologous regeneration of tissue, and it's a skin harvesting system. And so it's for like people who are donating skin tissue, that kind of thing, and for skin grafts. And so it includes that in here, but then it also launched it also includes something about the FDA launching the searchable tobacco products database and also an update to the mammography, so like mammograms, Quality Standards Act. And so these are three really different stories. So, what would you do to localize the news release or to make this into a story if you're a traditional news writer? Well, you would find the most relevant parts of the message. So, since they have so many updates in here, there are a lot of different things you can talk about. Um, let's see, the fourth paragraph on here even includes an E. coli outbreak related to raw cheddar cheese. So if that kind of cheddar, the brand that they say was affected, if that is included in here and it's in your area, then you might hone in on that specific thing. So you might say, "Hey, tell your audience specifically, this cheddar cheese is probably infected with E. coli, and you need to get rid of it." So again, whenever you see that information, it would be one of those where you say like, okay, this is sold in these markets. And if you wanted to do a whole story on it, then you could even talk to people who maybe are in the dairy industry, or you could talk to people who bought the cheddar cheese and or to health officials who can explain like how bad E. coli is and that it isn't worth risking your life to try and eat some cheese. So the second type of public relations information you might send out would be a fact sheet. And a fact sheet is different from a news or press release. It might be included in one, but this is going to be a very basic list of information where you include like the company name, times, dates, the location where something is going to happen, um, contact information. So, how can they contact you if you are the public relations person? And a very short bullet list of events. Now, these are a great thing to include in addition to a that more news article style press release because the newsroom doesn't always have time to read a 5 or 6 paragraph thing. Sometimes all they want to do is be able to glance at it, see that, oh, yeah, it includes this thing and it's happening later today. Cool. We can send a reporter over there. Done. And, they'll move on to the next thing. So consider including a fact sheet whenever you are writing a press release. Now, fact sheets, in addition to, of course, the time, place, and location, we're also still answering those questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Or it might be for whom, like who would this affect, who is involved in this, who would benefit from this program that we're doing, whatever it is. So here's an example. If we're looking at a quick fact sheet, and it says UL Lafayette launching new Bachelor of Music and Recording Arts concentration, and it happened in fall 2021. So that was our when. So we have what and when covered. Now, where is it? Well, it's at UL, but in the School of Music and Performing Arts. And why is this happening? It's to provide a major for recording artists who do not play instruments. And who would be affected by this? Who is this program for? It is for music producers, sound engineers, mixers, editors, and other audio production members. So we can see very clearly what's going on, who's involved, why this is happening, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the third type of information sheet is a media alert. And a media alert focuses more on who will do what, when, where, why, and how. And this is going to be in a little more of a paragraph style than that quick fact sheet. And you aren't giving them the full article the way you would for a news or press release. And so instead, you're still giving the basic information so they can understand what's going on, but you're going to promise more information like an interview with one of the main people involved, for example, if the news organization promises to attend. So again, this is more specifically geared toward the traditional news media and getting their attention and their coverage of your event. And this outlines possible visuals that can happen, so photos, video, etc., anything that might appeal to radio or TV broadcasters, or even to multimedia news organizations, or even traditional newspapers. Maybe they want to send a photographer out to go and take pictures. And you want to still include the time, date, and place and other fact sheet information in your media alert. Now, here's an example, and it says the Bluebird Cafe to feature music from Songwriting with Soldiers, which was a program they had at an April 1st event. So, and then it has a little more about who's going to be there, since these were people who, anyone interested in this might know. And it says in the round event with Darden Smith, Radney Foster, Jay Clementi, and Mary Gauthier. So then we have these kind of bullets, but not really bullets because they have little paragraphs, but it says what, colon, and then gives information. Songwriting with Soldiers founder Darden Smith alongside songwriters Radney Foster, Jay Clementi, and Mary Gauthier head to the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville for an evening of music and entertainment. So and then they outline again who is there. So they're repeating the information of who's going to be involved to try and get it across and make it stick a little more in the media professional's brain, which might be a little overloaded with other information. And we see when is it happening? Wednesday, April 1st. And where is it happening? The Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee. And then for additional information, they included a URL. So you can go straight to this webpage and look at that information. And then they give you a little brief explanation of what Songwriting with Soldiers is. And it explains that Songwriting with Soldiers pairs returning active duty soldiers with professional songwriters in order to create songs about their personal experiences. So you can get a little more about what's going on, why this would be a good event to cover through this brief explanation at the end. So, number four, the fourth type of public relations connection is through the story pitch. Now, these story pitches might happen within the newsroom. Sometimes the advertising department will have a social media coordinator or someone who kind of comes in once a week or a couple times a week to discuss possible stories between the news group and other people who are, paying advertisers or sponsors of different content, that kind of thing. So they're pitching a story. And this happens a lot now, too, even in the online realm. Whenever you're talking about the like Binging with Babish or some of those other online shows, you'll notice that sometimes they'll start having segments where they're looking at specific products or services offered by an organization. And of course, we're pretty exposed to those kinds of things often. So these they might not stand out as much, but next time you're watching YouTube videos or TikTok or something, check out how many people have this kind of sponsored content and sponsored stories where it seems like the only reason they have the story is for the purpose of including this new product or service or this other information from another company. So, story pitches are collaborative efforts where you're anticipating connecting to your target audience through this other group. So either traditional news media or maybe with a like with an online content creator. And finally, we have the social media post. And again, this is something where we have a little more direct audience connection. You have a business to person relationship, so a B2P relationship. You can also get B2B relationships if you are connecting with people who are content creators and stuff on social media. So with social media posts, we do get direct audience target audience connection usually, and you can also connect to your audience and maybe help with some kind of customer service issues. And you can also use social media, of course, to push events or news that's happening within a company. But remember, whenever you are writing anything, especially when we talk about social media posts, you need to have a certain voice that fits your company's branding. So you want to answer as a person from this company and make sure that you stay on brand and on target, much like you do whenever you're putting together advertising information. Now, here's an example social media post. You've seen hundreds of these on Instagram where you're scrolling and you see a sponsored ad, or maybe you're following someone and they have a new product or a new service. In this case, it's a new project that's available called through the group, the Indie Author Project. They have an annual contest, and so they have a little post about it on here, and they use the script font style that relates to their author indie branding type of thing. It's like that quasi script style of writing, and then the picture, is it's like blue and black, so it fits the style that they're going for. If you look at their logo, it's the same color blue as the words annual contest on here. And they have some information where it says the Indie Author Project annual contest has officially opened for submission. Submit your indie ebook here through May 31st for a chance to win the title of Best Book. And then they have a link. So they have a way for you to act upon this information and check out what they have. And then they have some hashtags at the bottom. And that's just like the stuff that we were talking about with social media during the social media chapter. So, a lot of these different styles that we've talked about relate to public relations in some way. All right, quiz time. Name two types of public relations writing. Do, 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 do. Okay, now to review, the different types of PR writing are the news or press release, the fact sheet, the media alert, story pitch, and the social media post. So, one more time, the news or press release, the fact sheet, the media alert, the story pitch, and the social media post. All right, so that's it for chapter 12. I will see you in class on Friday.